Hi, YouTube. Okay, so here's the situation. There's a big conversation going on in the Destiny community right now about day one raid clears and whether or not this raid was too hard or too easy. My brother T-Rex actually wrote an amazing article about this, and if you want to read his perspective, which I would highly recommend doing because he has different analysis than I do. You can go to trex.tv, and it's on his blog. But this, when I was reading everything, this is what I thought of. So there's a problem fundamentally with the human mind and the acquisition of skill. When the mind acquires a skill, it feels very rewarding. And when you apply that skill to overcome difficulty, it feels good. The problem is that over time, two things happen. One, your acquisition of this skill and then subsequent improvement of the skill is going to make things going forward easier. And even more difficult things than you first encountered feel easier than the less difficult thing that you encountered the first time. And this is very insidious. It's all hooked into all the reward systems in your brain. Effort, both perceived and real, is what informs your reward response, okay? So at first, when something's very novel and there's nothing going on, it's your first time encountering something, it's going to feel incredibly difficult if you're tasked with solving that problem. You know nothing of how that problem works. You don't even have guesses to that problem's systems. This would be essentially what it was like for the Destiny community raiding for the first time in Vault of Glass. But after that was done, the language of the challenge becomes understood, therefore reducing both real and perceived difficulty permanently. So this is a very interesting problem because it is not just games that have this problem. Every skill-based profession in the world has this problem. That's why we end up calling people who have complete and total control of a skill, they have mastery over that skill. And when you watch a master painter or a master musician do anything, it appears to be what? It always appears like it is so incredibly easy for them. Because the reality is, for them and the level of acquired skill, the incredible difficult piece that they are performing for you is actually easy for them. Because you're not watching them perform a piece, you're watching them do something with 30 years of acquired skill or more. So that brings me to this place. If you play Destiny all the time, you could argue that you are acquiring a skill set that makes you very good at playing Destiny. After you've done it for a long time and you've encountered every challenge possible in the game, new challenges are going to come out. And even if those challenges are both more difficult and require more skill, your level of skill might trivialize it. And that's just because you're that good at what you do. I personally think that this is an incredible thing and that it should be celebrated. If there are people who truly feel like this raid was easy for them, I think that's great. It's like, watching a professional sports player absolutely dominate the other team because they just understand the game that much more. The problem that presents itself over time is that unlike other professions like that are creative based, let's say like painting or music, there is always going to be a level of control that you don't have as a person who enjoys a video game over the medium in which you compete. A painter can paint anything you want. There's only one raid that you can do every few years. So that's kind of my thought, is that everyone who's expressing their opinion about this situation is expressing their opinion on their experienced reality inside of that raid. For the people who have been doing speed runs and raid challenges and playing together every week and doing solo and trio clears of all encounters, their skill level is incredibly high. And due to that incredibly high skill level, challenges will feel less difficult to them than it will for everyone else. So to them, was this probably an easier raid? That's very likely. However, to the novice, to the person who's attempting this for the very first time, it will probably have the exact same feeling of difficulty, both perceived and real, because they are having their very first experience. There are a whole bunch of other ways to talk about things. My brother does a very good job explaining some different, like, socioeconomic situations going along with COVID that might be contributing factors to the number of clears, which, as he points out, is kind of an insidious metric because numbers can say whatever you want them to say. But in my mind, that is how I've always viewed this problem. And I think it's very interesting to me that despite knowing that this problem is super deep and real and present in almost every part of human experience, Bungie and other game developers still try to crack the code to open up that reward cycle in our brain by increasing both perceived and real effort over time and making things rewarding. So that's just the core problem that would exist even in perfect conditions with a, perfect medium of expressing your skill, which nothing is. So at the end of the day, that's a problem that will always be present. And there's other things like there's more people who have access to the game. We had way more time for people to get ready. For anyone who was playing on day one, the pathway from power level start to 1200 was very easy because they just ran lost sectors. I'm absolutely positive that truncation of the power curve was not intended, right? So there was probably a lot more people that were able to compete because leveling was much, much easier. So there are other ways to look at it as well. But ultimately, I think that if you play the game all the time and you clear something and it feels easy to you, I think that you should feel accomplished all the more so than if it were to feel difficult. And it should be a confirmation of the quality and level of your skills because you truly felt that something that is difficult for others was easy for you. And that's incredible. And that's great. And it's a good feeling. So I would encourage anybody who feels that the raid maybe was too easy to take a step back and appreciate their incredibly high level of skill that made them feel that their perceived and real exertion in the raid was, not that high because they are that good. And anybody who felt like it was incredibly difficult, it was. Your experience belongs to you, and it's real. So that's okay too. That's what's so cool about people is we all experience things at different rates. And when we take time to step back and look at that, we can appreciate each other's quality of skill and, experience of novelty. And then everyone can be happy no matter how many folks clear something at the end of the day. So those are my thoughts. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I tried to post that on like a Twitter feed, but it wouldn't let me post it. So we made this video. So if you're watching on YouTube, thanks. I appreciate you, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.